Hey, what's up? Quick intro before this video. This is a panel with Lisa Langlois. She is an actress. She has been in 1984. She's been in The Nest. She was in Happy Birthday to Me. She was in a bunch of stuff. She's actually a really underrated actress, in my opinion. This is a really interesting panel that she did, talking about her career, kind of a retrospective on her entire filmography, or at least everything that we know her for. And there's some very interesting stuff in here and some controversial stuff. So hope you enjoy. Stay tuned. This was filmed live on the 30th of May at the Buffalo Horror Garage Sale Convention. And if you don't know what that is, listen to my video from a couple days ago where I talk about the $5 horror convention. That's the Buffalo Horror Garage Sale that I talk about. And yes, she is in this video and doing a panel and talking about the films she was in. 1984, she has great stories from, as well as her other films as well, and Happy Birthday to Me and Lisa Langlois.
Maybe just to start off, could you just talk a little bit about how you became interested in acting initially?
Actually, I was planning on either being a journalist or an attorney. And I needed a way to pay my way through university, and I had this dance teacher who said, "You should do commercials." And I said, "Well, how do you do that?" And she said, "You get photos and you bring them down to Toronto and get them to agents." So I had a couple of student photographers because they had to practice take pictures of me. So I called up one of them. I said, "Can you send my picture to these agencies?" So I got taken on by this one. It was called Train Co. And it was like Broadway Danny Rose. and it was like really cluttered, and the woman wasn't very nice to me, and I never got an audition ever. So about 6 months later, I got a call from the characters, and they're this top Toronto agency, and they said they wanted to have a meeting, and so I went in, and it was these fancy offices, and they were super nice to me, and so I thought, I have no qualms about being the other agent. And so I started doing commercials, and I booked like 7 nationals in 6 months. And because I had that perfect look, Girl Next Door, which was, they called it the Procter & Gamble look, which is, and it was in the 70s, whereas now, like if my look is out of style, because they want diversity. And so I did all these commercials, and then my agent got me an audition for a movie of the week with Henry Fonda, and I didn't know what to do, and so they gave me a script, and I said to myself, well, I'll just read it like you do, like reading a book out loud, and I did it, and I got a call back, and then the producer said, we really like you, but we want a real 14-year-old, and you're 18. It didn't bug me, because I wasn't planning on being an actor. So I had like nothing invested in it emotionally. So then, Claude Chabrol, he's like the Hitchcock of French cinema, he came into town, and my agent couldn't get me in because I hadn't done anything before. So this isn't really ethical, but he had another client, they called up, and they wanted that client to audition, and he said, it's too small a role, I'm not gonna send him in. And she persisted, so finally the agent said, tell you what, I'll send him in if you agree to see Lisa Langlois. Not very ethical. So I went in and had a really great meeting. I told him at the very beginning I could speak French, and but the film was his first English language picture. And then at one point, he just turned to his assistant, who was the wife of this very famous French Canadian director. Her name was Justine Ayou, but it was Didier's wife. And he said, I think this is the best girl we've seen. And I'm thinking, I just told him I could speak French, and he's telling her about this, I'm the best one you've seen yet. And then he turned back to me and he said it in English. He goes, you're the best one we've seen yet. He said, but the producers want a name, so I'm going to try and talk them into it. And so I said, well, don't you want me to read? Because that's all I knew about that you're supposed to read. He said, oh, you want to read? And he handed me the script. I was later to learn that, especially in Europe, you don't do readings. They just meet you, they already know you can act, and they just get a feeling of whether you're right for the part. So I just opened something up. It turned out it was a voiceover, and I did it. So that, again, I didn't think anything of it because I didn't have anything invested in it. And I went to see my dad in North Bay, which is like a 4-hour drive from Toronto North. I lived in Hamilton at the time, which we call Buffalo North. And it's just something, it was the days we didn't have answering machines. It was something told me I needed to get home. And I just thought, I gotta get back to my dad's lesson. So I told my dad I wanted to go home. So I get home after taking the bus from North Bay, and the phone's ringing. I get home really early in the morning. It's my agent. He said, "Where have you been?" He said, "They want you in Montreal today to start shooting." So I couldn't believe he delayed like that. So I got flown to Montreal and put in wardrobe and was shooting a film that afternoon.
Great cast people that you work with on Blood Relatives.
I know.
Donald Sutherland,
Not
Pleasance, David Hemmings too.
My first crush on an older man.
So you did Blood Relatives and Violette Nozière?
Yeah, so after that it was another closure role picture, and we did it in France opposite Isabelle Huppert, and she's like the Meryl Streep of France, and she still is. In fact, this week in Los Angeles, the Cinematheque is screening, I think on Monday. Yeah, the day after tomorrow, it's screening with Isabelle Huppert doing the Q&A.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was pretty amazing at 18 years old to go to France, go to Paris, and spend 6 weeks. It's pretty amazing.
Just a quick
interlude of that was the first movie of yours that played theatrically here in Buffalo, New York. It opened on November 22nd, 1978 at the Long.
That's my son's birthday.
Your son's birthday. Okay. And it opened at the Maple Forest, Long Gone movie theater here. Your next movie to play here theatrically opened on my 6th birthday, May 15, 1981, at the Holiday 6 and 3 other theaters. That's happy birthday to me. Class of 1984, opened here on October 15th. 1982, at the Boulevard Mall Theater, which was very close to here, the Eastern Hills Mall Theater, and also the Como 8. And then The Man Who Wasn't There in 3D. That would have been August 12th, 83 at the Como 8, the Colvin, and the Buffalo Drive-In. And lastly, the only movie of yours that I got to see first run theatrically, The Nest, opened here on February 26th, 1988, and also at the Boulevard Mall, Seneca Mall, and the Como 8. So quite a few of your movies played here to audiences theatrically. Wanted to make a note of those days. You also were covered in the Buffalo News way back in 1974 in a beauty pageant that you were in. There was a photo of you in the paper here locally.
It's one of my favorite photos.
And one of the, you want to describe that, it's pretty
Well,
cool.
it really belies what was going on. So I didn't enter the context. My I guess you call my stepbrother entered it, and it was really interesting because I used to be a baton twirler, and there was this girl at the studio where I played baton, I did baton, and she was like, everybody looked up to her. She was like an amazing baton twirler, and her mother made all her costumes. Her mother was like, stage mother, and she led all the pushes. She was phenomenal, but she wasn't nice to people. She just was such a snob. And she hung out with a couple of other girls that they all went to competitions too, and their mothers had the time and the money to take them. And I'd be bumming money to get money for a baton competition. I'd wear like secondhand costumes and stuff like that. Anyway, my stepbrother entered me in this contest, and I'm taking the bus home after lessons one day, and this girl and 2 other girls who go to a lot of competitions and win stuff because they had a lot of money behind them. And like my mother was a single mother, she had 5 kids, so she couldn't ever go to any competitions or take me. Anyway, they looked at me and they go, "Are you entering Miss Teen Hamilton contest, Lisa?" And they started laughing at me. And so I was in a competition, and my cousin took me to get a new dress. And I remember at the time, this is like in 1974, asking my baton teacher, "Should I wear nail polish?" Because it's like, oh, am I going to look too like a wild, fast woman wearing nail polish? And anyway, so I kept making the eliminations. And never in a million years, I had no self-esteem. I kept making the eliminations. And then I got down to 8, and then to 5, and then it got down to me and her. And it never even crossed my mind that she wouldn't win. She didn't win. It was a shockaroo for the whole studio, and from that moment on, she couldn't behave to people the way she did. She just, because somebody took it away from her. So then I went on to represent Canada, Hamilton and Miss Teen Canada, a contest, and so it got down to me and this other girl, and she wanted the shot that the Buffalo Evening News caught was amazing because when this girl won, she put her hands like this, and I, acting, pretended I was happy that she won, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? So it looks like I won and she lost. It was total acting, before I was an actor.
This is a horror-themed convention, and probably a film that maybe not everybody has seen is John Huston's Phobia from 1980. Must have been a pretty great experience working with him. And there's one particular story I know from the interview I wondered if you could share with people when he asked you to do a nude scene in terms of how you took control of that situation.
Yeah, I can't believe I took control of John Huston. So what happened, and actually the union has rules now about nudity based on what happened to me in that story. Because the casting director called my agent and it looks that wasn't in the script saying, oh, there's going to be a flash of breasts for Lisa in a bathtub scene. There was no bathtub scene in the script or anything. And so I really debated with myself, because this is John Huston, he doesn't need to do anything salacious, or does he? And like you couldn't do that now. Like how it works now is it has to be in the script when you audition. There has to be full transparency. So at one point I said to him, Catherine, because I was, a big fan of Katharine Hepburn, so I said, Katharine Hepburn wouldn't do nudity. He worked with her before, but he said, for me, she would. Get the voice in the face of God.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, maybe I'll get a body double to do this, okay? And then the body double that they had that came in, she didn't look at all like me. She had this big birthmark here, and I thought, well, the audience is going to know it's not me. So it wasn't about her birthmark, meaning that I shouldn't have a birthmark personally. It's that then it reveals that it's not me. So I thought, well, I'm going to do this then. And I remember saying, if I don't like, I can't believe I said this now. If I don't like this shot, it can't be the movie. I can't believe I said that.
Okay.
Yeah, and also at the same time, I'm at university and I'm studying American film, and one of the chapters, one of the classes that we do is on John Huston. So interesting. So anyway, of course, I didn't like it. It was too. I thought it was going to be really high up and over top. It was kind of bent this way and looking up at me, and I didn't like it. So it was a big brouhaha, but they took it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they took it out. They took it out.
Yeah, final cut of John
And I ended up being a movie called Final Cut.
Yeah.
Before, I think it's before Phobia, and after Klondike Fever, which we will skip. Overlap with the last guest we had here. You were on the set of Fellini's City of Women. You want to talk about that experience?
Yeah, I can't believe I've had this career of meeting legendary people and working with legendary people. So Klondike Fever does figure into this story.
That's how you got into there, yes.
So I'm in this movie Klondike Fever, and Ron Steiger. That was, in fact, that I could be in the same room as Ron Steiger. So anyway, I didn't really see them. But so anyway, the producer, Harry Allen Towers, he said, hey, do you want to go to Cannes? I need you to bring these reels of film for me. And I'm thinking, is that illegal? Like to just bring it, it's not drugs, but why are you asking me to do this? Why are you asking me? Anyway, long story short, he said, hey, after this I'm going to Rome, and then I'm going to England, and I'm going back home to be with my wife. So, do you want me to tell the?
Sure.
Okay. So, on the subject of the Me Too thing, he said, don't worry, you're going to have adjoining rooms with me, but my wife's coming. Okay. So I trust him. So I'm in the adjoining room, and she's there a couple days, and then she goes back home to London. And I'm in the adjoining room. And every night, when he'd go back to his room, just during, he'd have to walk through my room, and he would try to make the make on me, and it was really uncomfortable to like turn him away. So then we go to Rome, and he said he had to have a meeting with Fellini at Cinecittà. And same thing, on the way over the taxi, he tries to hold my hand, do this, and I just said, you touch me one more time, and I'm gonna scream out loud. So that was the end of that. And that was really the end of that, because we went to Cinecittà, and I saw him directing City of Women, and the women were screaming and yelling, and he was screaming and yelling back at them. Like, it was like, that was how he was directing. It was so amazing. And then I met him, and I got introduced to him. He didn't speak English, and I didn't speak Italian. And he took my face into his hands, and he said something, and somebody said, he said, you have beautiful eyes. So that was like so memorable for me. And then went off to London, and the guy was, the producer, never laid a hand or said anything suggestive. Yeah.
So I think we move into kind of the tax shelter era in Canada, which produced
Shelter terror.
well, it produced a lot of what most people would call exploitation movies, horror movies, teen sex comedies, but it was exploitation, and really a great time probably to be an actor in Canada. There's a ton of work suddenly in Canada, and people think of slasher films as an American phenomenon, but really some of the biggest ones come from Canada, like Prom
So
Night.
basketball comes from Canada.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know. I couldn't care less about sports. We spent our childhoods watching Lisa Langlois movies. This is Buffalo. It's a stupid sports town, but these people are here to talk to you about Class of 1984.
Yeah.
But I just insulted a lot of people, sorry. But so happy birthday to me. Besides having possibly the greatest movie poster in the slasher film era. You don't have the biggest role in it, but you shine in all of your scenes. You really stand out, and it has some pretty well-known people in the cast. What was that set like? The Happy Birthday to Me experience.
Oh, I thought we were talking all this time about Class of 1984.
Oh, we didn't get there yet. That's just that after.
Great poster.
Oh, well, I have the Happy Birthday to Me
And I thought to
poster.
myself, Happy Birthday to Me happened before Class of 1984.
Yeah.
So how are we skipping that? So
We
what are
weren't.
talking
Happy
about?
Birthday to Me.
Oh, I love you're going to Happy Birthday to Me. Well, first of all, I was supposed to have the lead opposite this person. And then Tracy Brightman came along and came into our office, like my agency, and she just had, she was a star of American soap opera. So I got demoted, and it's so funny because we ended up being really close on that. And I wasn't jealous or anything. I mean, I would have really liked to have had her part, but I just loved Lee Thompson. I mean, and what a great director! I mean, Guns of Navarone and Cape Fear and Tiger Bay, and he had such a great sense of humor. He was so funny. And up to that point, I had never been in a movie where, like, I was always the daughter or something, or one other person. I'd never been with my peers, other actors. And that was a little intimidating for me because I always felt like such a kind of a fraud because I got discovered and got to work with all these people and I hadn't studied. So, and these people, had all, like Lori Hallier, or Hallier, she was just out of theater school, National Theater School, and she was my stand-in. And that was probably the last time I worked with stand-ins. There was a time where, they probably have it on really big budget films still, but a stand-in is somebody that they watch, the actors rehearse, and then the camera and the director watch the action, and then they send you back to hair and makeup to do retouches or do it. And the extra's been watching, so while they're setting up the lights, the extra can mimic what you did as the actor. And you save a lot of time, but there's a lot of people who say, we don't want to spend the money, but you save so much time. Anyway, so yeah, I was kind of intimidated by these other actors who had trained, and it was just so fun. It was like being on a school trip.
Actually, to follow up on that, I have a lobby card at the end there where it shows you in the rain and like screaming. And actually, in the end of the movie that exists now, you're just holding the present with like this kind of catatonic look of shock. Was there a sense of like rewrites in terms, like was there supposed to be alternate endings or
There was
something
no
like that?
alternate ending.
Yeah,
There
or
was
trying
no
to decide how
alternate-
they were going to end it.
No, I was getting the axe in the end, and
It's interesting you said the word catatonic, because, you know, I was asking Keith Knight, 'cause I didn't want to be overacting. I think, you know, I'm on my way to the birthday party, and I've just seen what I've seen, so what do you think? You know, he goes, I think you'd be catatonic. Then you used the word. No, we shot it, I got the axe in the head. In fact, there were, you know, Lee Thompson, he would carry a coffee cup filled with blood. He always said, more about he'd be throwing the blood. So I got all this blood in my hair, and you know, I have like, I still do, streaked hair, and it stained my, this is proof that, you know, we shot it with the axe in the head. We shot it because I had to get hair color correction because it stained my blonde hair. And so apparently Columbia Pictures said that it would be an X rating if they kept the axe in the head. Meanwhile, look how violent all the other murders are, I don't know. And so it was cut out. And so I became a survivor. But I don't think my character looked like I'd ever be right again.
Yeah, after seeing that.
Yeah.
You have a one of your more substantial roles as far as like a lot of screen time is in the teen comedy Hard Feelings that it was released on at least in the States on tape as Hang Tough.
I know.
And it's a good role as far as it being a lot of screen time. And it's not a bad movie. It has some pretty goofy bits here and there, but it's it's sort of a mix between sweet coming of age story and a raunch comedy. But I think at that point that would have been your most substantial role, right? Did it feel kind of like a starring role?
Yeah, I guess it did. Yeah, I guess it did. It was a very troubled film. First of all, no one has ever interviewed me about that film. So congratulations. Right here in Buffalo, first. I actually wasn't going to get that film because I still am. I was a terrible auditioner, just terrible, and that's why doing self-tapes has been so good for me. So I did a reading for the casting director, and just, you know, it was really bad in it. So, you know, I didn't get a call back. I didn't get to meet the director or anything. And they were having a really hard time finding somebody. And the director said, well, you know, I want a Sandra D type. And so my boyfriend at the time happened to be the camera operator. He was in the meeting. And he said, well, what about Lisa Langlois? And so the director said, well, why haven't I seen Lisa Langlois? Yeah, I want to see Lisa Langlois. And I went in, and I had somebody help me with the audition. For once, I did a good job, and I got the film. Yeah. But, you know, it was a very troubled film, because every weekend, somebody from the crew would get fired. And the budget tripled, so it was a bad feeling on the film. And it was also at the same time, what do they call it, Green River Murders? When all in Atlanta, all those little boys.
Yeah.
That was happening, and we didn't know who it was, right? We just knew that people were getting murdered. So I was afraid in Atlanta.
I'd like to move on to probably my favorite film of yours is Deadly Eyes, which probably a lot of people here are familiar with. Best killer rap movie. Filmed in Toronto. This movie has your collaborations with people on this film are great. Like your scenes with Leslie Donaldson.
I know.
And
She made me nervous because she was so good.
The character of Patsy, which is one of the most memorable aspects of the movie. Do you want to talk about some of your input towards that character and what you brought to the movie? Because it seems as though even the director, whose commentary track is quite disappointing, honestly, on on the
Was
Blu-ray.
disappointing.
Well, he doesn't name you by name, for example, or many of the other cast members, and he doesn't. His attitude towards the movie is just, as a fan of the film, a little disappointing. But he does credit you with contributing a lot and coming up with certain ideas in regards to the character. Do you want to talk about how you got the role, and then some of what you invested over the course of the shoot?
Sure. So they brought me in for the part of Erin Noble. She was the girl who played the clarinet. And I said, I just come off of like playing that kind of part in Hard Feelings. And so I said, I really want to play the punk rocker. And he said, yeah, well, we really see you as the other character. I said, I know, but I don't have to open my mouth that some people see me. We really know how to do. It's not. I said, I have 4 older brothers, and they're really tough guys. Get in a lot of trouble. They have a lot of friends. I can do it. And so I came back in. I read it. And they loved it. My frustration was though, once I got this script, is that I was like an extra. I'm with guys, and they never give me anything to do. And Terry Leonard, who was the stunt coordinator, he was just as bad. In the fight scenes, he never gave me anything to do, and he was the guy, when you saw Indiana Jones in the temple doing, not the temple, just Indiana Jones, when you see that scene with the stagecoach, and he's underneath, yeah, that's him.
Oh, wow.
So that was like a huge thing. So I just had to start thinking about stuff to do with a character who is never given anything to do. So in every scene where it's like, I asked Mark I said, can I have a Polaroid camera? And I'll tell you, because I made up the line I like to watch. And where I got that one from is that that year at the Toronto Film Festival, being there, the Hal Ashby film was one of the featured films, and Chauncey Gardner says, I like to watch. So in that scene, I said, Mark, is it okay if I said I like to watch? And so just like, and that's why I thought of, so along that line, when we got to the rape scene where I was again, not given anything to do, I was given a cigarette, so I could just sit there, have a relax and smoke while I'm watching, which I'm so evil while I'm watching it, raped, and take a Polaroid, which is, and so he got me a Polaroid. Like what I did like about him, what I didn't like is he treated everybody badly, and we never got paid, other than the shoot days. We never got paid for a television release, CD, DVD, VHS, nothing. Anytime you see it now, it's for nothing. I bet you, the Screen Actors, the people who were American that got Screen Actors Guild contracts, I don't think that happened to them. But anyway, so every single scene, because before, Cassie had no lines, she had no business, there was nothing that she could do. And the only time I tried not to be in a scene, actually, there were 2 times. And there, one was the dance sequence, where they're slam dancing. And that's because there was this group of, they hired like real punkers for the extras. And it was days where punkers only wore black and white. So these really tough punkers came up to me, they said, you're not a real punker. We're gonna get you on this film. So I thought, I know where they're gonna get me. Because we're always having scenes and they're not there, right? And I thought, they're gonna get me during that dance sequence. So I went and hid. And so you won't, and Mark never noticed, so you won't see me in that scene. And another time I'm not in, and I didn't find any business to do, is where they had the rumble, the 2 gays. And again, they didn't give me anything to do. So again, they didn't notice, Terry Leonard could have given me fighting things to do. I thought it would have made me, another level of interest. And so I just stayed, it was rainy and cold, it was under the Gardner Square.
I was going to say it was under the garden.
And I just stayed in my trailer and I was reading the biography on Shelley Winters. And I just read that
While they were out in the cold and fighting in the rain.
Yeah. But every single scene, like the bottle, there was nothing for me to do in that scene when we were walking through the alley, so I asked Mark, I said, there are always bottles near me in the alleys. And I said, can you get me a breakaway one and I'll
you know, I'll threaten the girl with it, but every single scene, I just thought of something to do, yeah.
Yeah, definitely made it an iconic role, especially with the camera and the race scene. That's a hard scene to watch. I just watched it the other day.
I find it hard
It's like-
too.
It, like even like today. One scene I wanted to just point out because I love it is your scene with Roddy McDowell. When Roddy McDowell kind of loses his mind, who was also on in Blackboard Jungle.
Yeah, that was
previously,
brilliant
which is
casting.
amazing. So could you tell a little bit about working with him?
Yeah, I was terrified because he's such a good actor. He's so good. And I thought, well, I gotta like do this really intense scene opposite him, but it really worked. He was such a gentleman. And he actually wrote, like, yeah, I had to have 3 letters when I applied for my green card. And Roddy McDowell wrote one, and John Huston wrote one, and then his Canadian producer wrote one, yeah. And they didn't hesitate when I asked.
It's kind of a time capsule too of what Toronto looked like at that time period.
Yeah.
There's shots of Yonge Street and the intersection where the world's biggest bookstore was, and Cinema Record Man and A&A Records.
Yeah.
And the school is still there for people who like to go look at film locations. Just less than 90 minutes from you. You can go to the house, you can go to the school, and look at Class of 1984 locations. Of course, one of the people who ended up being very famous who was in that movie is Michael J. Fox. It was just Michael Fox at that time. Did you interact with him on that set?
Yes, quite a bit. In fact, I remember being with him one night at the King Edward Hotel, and I just couldn't believe for somebody who looked so sweet and innocent and so short and like so much like a little boy, and he like smoked like a smokestack and he drank like a fish. I just like, I couldn't believe it.